Los Angeles, California. The Cato set of 20th Century Fox Studios. August 14, 1967. 2:47 p.m. The soundstage air hangs thick with dust particles dancing through the industrial lighting rig suspended 40 feet overhead. The temperature hovers at 89 degrees despite the concrete floors that should keep things cool. Somewhere beyond the false walls painted to look like a villain's penthouse, a crew member drops a metal tool. The clang echoes. 5 cameras sit dormant on their tracks, lenses capped, waiting for the next Green Hornet scene that won't happen for another hour. Right now, in the narrow corridor between Stage 7 and the craft services table, something else is unfolding. Bruce Lee stands 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighing 135 pounds. His black hair catches the overhead lights. He wears his Cato costume minus the mask, black silk that ripples when he shifts his weight, soft shoes designed for silent movement. His breathing remains even. Controlled. His hands hang loosely at his sides, fingers relaxed but ready. His eyes, dark, measuring, patient, remain fixed on the man before him. That man towers. 6 feet 4 inches. 315 pounds. Bob Wall hasn't yet become the tournament champion karate instructor the world will know in Enter the Dragon. Right now, he's a stuntman with a 4th-degree black belt, arms like oak branches, a chest that strains against his gray t-shirt. Sweat already glistens on his forearms despite the air conditioning struggling against the California heat. His hands curl into fists the size of small melons. Behind him, 3 other stuntmen watch with arms crossed. They've heard Bruce talk. They've seen him move during rehearsals, sure, but this is different. This is about respect. This is about whether this Hong Kong actor really knows what he claims to know. The confrontation didn't begin with violence. It began 30 minutes earlier with a conversation near the coffee station. "I can take down any man, any size, any time," Bruce had said to a production assistant, his voice carrying that particular certainty that made people either believe or bristle. Weight means nothing if you understand economy of motion. 300 pounds versus 135? The bigger man just has more mass to redirect. Bob Wall overheard. He'd spent 15 years training in Shorin-ryu karate, thousands of hours drilling kata, sparring with men his size and larger, building a reputation in the Southern California martial arts community. He'd worked on Western sets, doubled for actors in fight scenes, taken real punches and given them back. This Bruce Lee character, this television sidekick making $30,000 per episode, was talking about physics like it mattered more than bone and muscle. "You really believe that?" Bob's voice carried across the soundstage. Deep, skeptical. Not hostile yet, just testing. Bruce turned. Smiled. Not the Hollywood smile, but something else. Something that people who'd trained with him in Oakland or Seattle or Hong Kong would recognize. The smile that meant he'd just been handed an opportunity to demonstrate rather than debate. "I don't believe it," Bruce said, walking closer. "I know it. There's a difference." "Okay." Bob set down his coffee. "Show me." The challenge hung in the recycled air of the soundstage. Around them, activity stopped. A cameraman paused mid-step. The assistant director looked up from his clipboard. Someone near the lighting grid leaned over the railing to watch. In martial arts films, fights are choreographed, safe, designed to look devastating while protecting everyone involved. This was different. This had the electric charge of authenticity, of something about to become real. "You want me to actually hit you?" Bruce's question came without mockery. Genuine clarification. "I want you to try." Bob squared his shoulders, dropped into a stable stance. 315 pounds rooted to the concrete. "You talk about redirecting mass. Let's see it." Bruce nodded once. "Where do you want me to strike?" "Chest. Center mass. Come at me however you want." Bob's hands came up into a guard position, decades of training putting his body into proper defensive structure. Weight balanced, chin tucked, eyes focused. He'd been hit by some of the hardest kickers in California. He'd taken spinning back kicks from tournament fighters who could break concrete blocks. He'd sparred full contact before full contact was a formal sport. Whatever this television actor could generate from 135 pounds wouldn't match what Bob had already survived. Bruce stepped back 3 paces. Created distance. His body language shifted, not dramatically, not with obvious telegraphing, but something changed. The casual set of his shoulders disappeared. His weight settled lower. His breathing deepened, ribcage expanding, oxygen flooding muscle tissue with fresh fuel. "You're certain?" Bruce asked one final time. "I'm certain you're stalling." Bob's grin showed white teeth. No anger in it. Just confidence. Just the absolute certainty that comes from being the biggest, strongest man in most rooms. If you want to discover how this legendary confrontation unfolded and the profound lesson it revealed, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next will challenge everything you thought you knew about combat. Bruce Lee had spent 27 years preparing for this moment, though he didn't know it would arrive on a soundstage on a Tuesday afternoon in August. Born in San Francisco, raised in Hong Kong, trained under Ip Man in Wing Chun from age 13, he'd absorbed the principles of Chi Sao, sticky hands, the sensitivity drills that taught economy of motion, directness, simplicity. When other students practiced forms for their beauty, Bruce dissected them for their function. Which movements actually worked in combat? Which were tradition masquerading as technique? At 18, he'd been challenged by rival martial artists in Hong Kong. 1. Been challenged again. 1. His teacher suggested America might be safer, too many fights, too much attention from both admirers and those seeking to test themselves against the Ip Man student who moved like water. In Seattle, he taught. In Oakland, he opened a school. Students came expecting the slow, meditative movements they'd seen in Chinatown demonstrations. Instead, they found devastating speed, full contact sparring, an obsession with what Bruce called the style of no style. If it worked, keep it. If it didn't, discard it. No loyalty to tradition, only to effectiveness. He'd sparred with boxers, wrestlers, judoka, karate practitioners. Studied their patterns. Discovered that size created patterns, big men moved certain ways, relied on reach and power because they always had. They'd built their entire fighting vocabulary around being larger than opponents. But what happened when size became a liability? When momentum became something to exploit rather than resist? Bob Wall knew none of this history. He saw a thin man in a silk costume, talking big, probably fast but lacking the raw power to hurt someone who'd been conditioned by years of impact training. The stuntmen behind Bob shifted their weight, ready to step in if things went too far. Nobody wanted a star injured. Nobody wanted a lawsuit. But everyone wanted to see what would happen when Hollywood confidence met California karate. The soundstage had gone completely silent. Somewhere, the air conditioning cycled off, and in that sudden absence of white noise, every breath became audible. Bruce moved. His feet don't shuffle. They glide. Bruce covers the 3 paces between himself and Bob Wall in one fluid motion, no wasted energy, no bouncing, no telegraphing. His body remains upright, head steady, eyes locked on Bob's center mass. The distance closes. 1.5 seconds. Bob's muscles tense. His training activates automatically, guard tightens, core engages, legs prepare to absorb impact. He's received charging opponents before. You root yourself. You let them crash against your structure. 315 pounds doesn't move easily. 2.1 seconds. Bruce's right foot plants 18 inches from Bob's lead leg. His weight transfers forward but not completely, 60% front, 40% rear. His hips begin to rotate. Not dramatically. Just enough. His right fist chambers at his ribs, elbow tight to his body. His left hand extends forward, fingers loose, drawing Bob's visual attention upward toward the potential of a jab or feint. 2.8 seconds. The rotation accelerates. Bruce's hips snap through like a coiled spring releasing. His rear leg drives into the concrete, generating force that travels up through his calf, his thigh, into his pelvis. The kinetic chain operates perfectly, each segment transferring energy to the next with minimal loss. His waist turns. His shoulder follows. His fist shoots forward. The punch travels 11 inches. 3.4 seconds. Impact. Bruce's fist, specifically the bottom 3 knuckles, aligned perfectly with the radius and ulna bones of his forearm, connects with Bob Wall's sternum. The contact point measures approximately 2 square inches. The force generated doesn't come from arm strength. It comes from the entire body operating as a unified mechanism, every ounce channeled through that tiny surface area. Bob's eyes widen. The sensation isn't pain. Not immediately. It's something else. Shock. The feeling of being fundamentally moved against your will. 315 pounds suddenly becomes a disadvantage because momentum doesn't care about intention. Physics operates without prejudice. Force equals mass times acceleration, and Bruce has delivered acceleration that Bob's mass amplifies rather than resists. Bob's feet leave the ground. 3.9 seconds. Not dramatically. Not flying backward through the air like a movie stunt. But his heels lift 2 inches off the concrete. His center of gravity, usually so stable, so rooted, shifts backward beyond his ability to recover. His arms, raised in guard position, suddenly windmill as his brain screams for balance. His back foot slides, squeaking against the polished floor. 4.6 seconds. Bob's spine hits the plaster wall 12 feet behind where he'd been standing. The impact reverberates through the soundstage. Dust shakes loose from the false ceiling tiles. A coffee cup on a nearby table rattles. The wall doesn't break, it's reinforced for set construction, but the sound is substantial. Hollow. Final. Bob slides down to a seated position, legs splayed forward, mouth open. 5.2 seconds. The stuntmen behind him freeze. One starts to step forward, then stops. What is there to do? Bob isn't injured. He's sitting. Breathing. But his expression carries something none of them have seen before. Not pain. Disbelief. The look of a man whose fundamental understanding of reality just received a revision. Bruce remains in his stance, fist still extended, watching. His breathing hasn't changed. Still even. Still controlled. Sweat hasn't appeared on his forehead. His silk costume hasn't wrinkled. He looks exactly as he did before the exchange, as if displacing 315 pounds 12 feet backward required no more effort than reaching for a coffee cup. 7.3 seconds. Bob's hand goes to his chest. Presses against the sternum where Bruce's knuckles connected. His fingers probe gently, checking for damage, for broken bones, for the injury that should exist after being launched backward. Nothing broken. Just an ache. Deep. Radiating. The kind that speaks of impact absorbed into tissue and bone, of force delivered with precision rather than wildness. 8.1 seconds. Jesus Christ. The words escape Bob's mouth as a whisper. Not anger. Not wounded pride. Pure astonishment. What the hell was that? Bruce lowers his fist. Steps back. His expression softens. The demonstration is complete. Now comes the teaching. 9.0 seconds. The soundstage erupts. The assistant director starts clapping, slow at first, then faster. The cameraman whistles. Someone yells, "Did you see that? Did everyone see that?" Another stuntman helps Bob to his feet, checking him for injury, finding none but clearly shaken. Bob stands on stable legs, testing his balance, rolling his shoulders. Everything functions. Everything works. But something fundamental has changed. "You asked me to show you," Bruce says, his voice quiet enough that people lean in to hear. "That's the 1-inch punch. Most of the power, none of the wind-up. Your size didn't protect you because I didn't fight against your size. I used it." Bob stares. His hand still rests on his chest. "How? You tensed. You prepared to be strong. Strength is rigid. Rigidity can't adapt." Bruce demonstrates in slow motion, the hip rotation, the alignment, the transfer of energy. When force meets resistance, something has to give. I made sure it wasn't me. Your 315 pounds gave you confidence, but confidence isn't rooting. The bigger you are, the more mass I have to redirect. You did most of the work. I just provided the initial acceleration. This is where the legend begins to form. The story that will be told in dojos and martial arts schools for decades. Bruce Lee, the television actor, the man who wouldn't shut up about his revolutionary approach to combat, actually delivering on the promise. Actually demonstrating that technique and understanding could overcome raw physical advantage. But this is also where the misunderstanding begins. Because the lesson isn't about Bruce being superior. It isn't about Bob being inferior. It isn't about one martial art defeating another. The witnesses who will retell this story, and they will, dozens of times, to anyone who'll listen, will often miss the point. They'll focus on the spectacle. The David versus Goliath narrative. The little guy winning. Bruce sees Bob's face and recognizes something. Embarrassment trying to hide behind bravado. Pride wounded not by the impact but by the public nature of it. 3 other stuntmen watching. A crew that will gossip. A story that will spread. Stand up properly, Bruce says, and there's no mockery in it. We're not done. Bob straightens. Confused. You want to go again? No. I want you to hit me. The soundstage goes quiet again. Different quiet this time. Uncertain. The assistant director stops smiling. Someone mutters, "This is a bad idea." Bruce is the star. He's the reason this show exists. If Bob Wall, legitimately angry now, ego bruised, 315 pounds of muscle and trained karate power, actually connects, the production shuts down. Insurance claims get filed. Network executives start screaming. Hit me, Bruce repeats. Center mass. Hard as you want. Don't hold back. Bob's jaw clenches. You're serious. You need to understand it from both sides. Attack me. Really attack me. Then you'll know what I'm teaching. Bob Wall hesitates. Not from fear. From calculation. He's hit men in tournaments, in sparring sessions, in choreographed fights where the goal was making contact look devastating without actually destroying someone. This is different. Bruce just sent him flying backward with what felt like a freight train compressed into a fist. Now he's offering himself as a target. The mathematics don't add up. The logic fails. But pride has its own mathematics. Bob steps forward. His hands rise into proper striking position. His breathing deepens, chest expanding, oxygen-feeding muscles that know exactly how to generate power. He's not angry anymore. Something else has replaced it. Curiosity. The need to understand what just happened by experiencing its opposite. If Bruce can move him with science, can he withstand science in return? Whenever you're ready, Bruce says. His stance shifts. Weight distributes evenly. His hands come up, not into a guard exactly, but something more fluid. Alive. Ready to respond rather than resist. Bob commits. His right leg drives into the floor. His hips rotate with the full torque that 315 pounds can generate. His fist rockets forward, not wild, not sloppy, but textbook reverse punch. Seiken. The technique he's drilled 10,000 times. The strike that has won him tournaments. His knuckles aim for Bruce's solar plexus, traveling the distance with speed that contradicts his size. The fist never arrives. Bruce's body rotates. Not away. Not backward. Diagonal. 45 degrees. His left hand rises, intercepts Bob's wrist, not blocking, not stopping, but redirecting. The contact is brief. Gentle almost. Just enough pressure to alter the trajectory by inches. Bob's fist passes through empty air where Bruce's torso was a microsecond earlier. Momentum carries Bob forward. 315 pounds in motion wants to stay in motion. His balance shifts too far. His center of gravity extends beyond his lead foot. Bruce's right hand touches Bob's elbow. Pushes. Not hard. Just precisely. Just enough to help Bob continue the direction he's already committed to. Bob stumbles. Catches himself. Spins around. Again, Bruce says. Bob attacks again. Left jab, right cross combination. Fast. Technical. The kind of combination that has knocked men unconscious. Bruce's head moves like it's on a swivel, slip left, slip right. Neither punch connects. Bob follows with a front kick, snapping his knee up, extending his foot toward Bruce's midsection. Bruce's hand sweeps down, redirects the kick past his hip. Bob's foot slams into the concrete. The impact echoes. Again. Bob tries 5 more times. Each attempt grows more frustrated, less technical, more desperate. He throws hooks, uppercuts, combinations he's built over 15 years of training. Nothing lands. Bruce doesn't block in the traditional sense. He moves. He guides. He makes Bob's attacks cooperate with empty space. Finally, Bob stops. Hands on his knees. Breathing hard. Sweat drips from his forehead onto the concrete, leaving dark spots that evaporate in seconds. You feel it now? Bruce asks. Not gloating. Teaching. Bob nods. Can't speak yet. His lungs burn. His shoulders ache from throwing power into nothing. The exertion isn't from Bruce hurting him. It's from fighting against himself, against his own momentum, against the techniques that suddenly feel clumsy and obvious. Your karate is excellent, Bruce continues. Your form is clean. Your power is real. But you're fighting the way you were taught to fight, with strength, with commitment, with techniques designed to overwhelm. That works against opponents who fight the same way. It fails against someone who refuses to be where you expect. Bob straightens. His breathing slows. So everything I learned is useless? No, Bruce's voice carries absolute certainty. Everything you learned is foundation. I'm showing you the next level. Structure is essential. Without your 15 years of training, you couldn't generate that power. But power without adaptability is just tension waiting to be exploited. You're like a river trying to flow through a single channel. I'm showing you how to be water that finds every opening. The philosophy hangs in the air between them. Around them, the crew has forgotten about call times and production schedules. They're watching education happen in real time. The stuntmen who came ready to defend Bob now watch with different eyes. This isn't humiliation. This is transmission. The passing of understanding from someone who's discovered something to someone ready to receive it. Bob extends his hand. Bruce takes it. They shake, not the grudging handshake of defeated men, but the firm grip of mutual respect. Bob's pride isn't destroyed. It's been refined. Transformed. 9 seconds changed what he thought he knew about combat. The next 5 minutes changed what he thought about learning. Drop a comment below. Do you think Bruce's philosophy of adapting like water was superior to traditional martial arts strength, or was there wisdom in both approaches? Defend your position. I want to see real martial arts debates in the comments. Let's see who understands the deeper lesson here. Years later, when Bruce Lee died at 32 years old, his heart stopping in a Hong Kong apartment in 1973, his body giving out decades before his ideas finished spreading, Bob Wall would be asked about this moment hundreds of times. Interviews. Documentaries. Martial arts seminars where students wanted to hear from someone who actually stood across from the legend. His answer never changed. Bruce didn't beat me that day, Bob would say, his voice carrying the weight of decades of reflection. He taught me. There's a difference. He could have embarrassed me. Could have made me look like a fool in front of everyone. Instead, he showed me my limitations and then showed me how to transcend them. That's not defeating someone. That's elevating them. Bob Wall would go on to become one of Bruce's closest friends. Would appear in 3 of his films. Would teach the philosophy he learned on that soundstage to his own students, passing down not just techniques but the understanding that true mastery isn't about being unbeatable, it's about being unreachable. Not through running or hiding, but through understanding that force flows around obstacles, that water defeats stone not through strength but through persistence and adaptability. The soundstage moment became legend. The 1-inch punch became iconic, demonstrated on television shows, analyzed in physics classrooms, attempted by millions who saw the power but missed the principle. They saw Bruce's fist. They missed his understanding. They focused on the 9 seconds of impact and forgot the 5 minutes of education that followed. True martial arts mastery isn't about destroying opponents. It's about revealing truth through physical dialogue. Bruce didn't end Bob Wall's pride that day. He transformed it into something deeper. Something lasting. Something that would ripple through martial arts philosophy for generations. If this story changed how you see martial arts, hit that subscribe button. There are dozens more untold confrontations like this, moments that rewrote the rules of combat. You don't want to miss what's coming next. The lesson wasn't in the punch. It was in what came after.